Hello, this is Professor Brown-Sederberg, and I'd like to talk about static variables. A static variable is a variable that's shared by all the instances of the class in which that variable is declared. So here we have the class player, and you'll see that it has a single instance variable, and that instance variable is named points. It is of type int and it's private. It's also static. A static variable is shared by all the instances of that class. Typically, if we declare a variable, a non-static variable, an instance variable, there's memory space put aside for that variable for that instance. With a static variable, memory space is put aside not for a specific instance, but rather for all of the instances. So all of the instances share that memory space. If the value of that variable is changed for one instance, it is changed for all of the instances. Now this class, the class player, was constructed to demonstrate a static variable. So I've made it very simple. We have the constructor, the default constructor player, and it sets the value of our variable to 0. We have the method scorePoint. Notice it's a non-static, so it must be called by an instance of the class, and it merely increments, adds 1 to the value of points. Then we have this, again, non-static method, must be called by an instance of the class. This method getPoints that merely returns back the value of points. So this is our class player. Here, in this class, DemoStaticVariables, we'll look at that static variable that is points. So here in this class I have a main method, and in this main method I declare and create 3 instances of the class player, A, B, and C. When I have these lines executed, when they execute, this default constructor is called, and the value of points is set to 0. Now, in this line, A, an instance of the class player, is calling the method scorePoint. That's a method in the class player. And we know that it increments the value of points by 1. Okay, it increases by 1. It increments. Here in these 3 lines, I have A, B, and C call the method getPoints. A value, an int, is returned by that method. It's concatenated with a string. That string passed to println. So let's run this program, and we'll see that the output is the score of A is 1, of B is 1, and C is 1. Only A called scorePoint, but A, by calling scorePoint, increased by 1, the value of points. All of the instances of the class share that space. So for not only A, but also B and C, the value of score was incremented by 1. It was increased by 1. Now let's have B call scorePoint, and we'll have C do the same. And we'll print out the values of points for A, B, and C as we did before. And so we see that as I have A call scorePoint, and then B, and then C, and then print out the values scored in the space points, I have 1, and then 2, and then 3. This the result of A calling scorePoint, this the result of B calling scorePoint, this the result of C calling scorePoint. All of the instances of the class player share in that same space. Now, let's create a new player, player D. And I will have not only A and B and C, but then D also call getPoints. Now I'm just going to create D and then find the points for all 4 of my instances. So let's run and see what happens. Well, you see that my first 3 printouts, the 1, the 2, and 3, were as I expected. But now I see that the value that I have for A, B, C, and D is 0. That's because with the execution of this line, player D, calls the constructor in the class player. That constructor sets the value of points to 0. That value of points is set to 0 not only for D, but for A, B, and C. Anything done to the memory space points for one instance is done for all. So we have this printout of the values. They've been reset to 0. Had I made this declaration D, not here, I'll comment it out here, but instead of making it here, but rather up here, and now I run, we'll see that the value of A, B, C, and D, that last printout, is 3, because the value wasn't reset, because D was declared up here with all the others. So with the end of this line's execution, all of the values for all of the instances of the class player for the instance variable score, or points, is 0. They've been reset. They've all been set. With any creation of a new instance sets that variable points back to 0. So when you're working with static variables, it's important to remember that a static variable, as we have here, is a variable that is shared by all the instances of that class. Any change to that instance variable is shared by all the instances. A change for one is a change for all. Thank you.